Most of you have no idea how special it is for me to be standing on this stage and sing this next song. It's a big deal to me. You see, as we travel doing ministry, and people come in and out of your church, and they come in and they do their thing and they leave, you have no idea the impact sometimes that you, as people with just a hug or a word, or you as your pastor, leaves on the people as they go back to wherever their home is. See, as I stood and did the conference last year, and then Homer and I stayed over for worship, as y'all so graciously allow us to do, and we sat right over here and went through the first service, went through the second service, and Gerald got up to preach, and he said, "I'm not going to preach to y'all today." And I thought, okay, what's he going to do today? You know, something different, so let's have it. And he called the pastors, or the lay pastors and the elders, to the front. He said, if you're struggling with something, if you need prayer, I want you to come to the front. And he didn't preach that day. He offered an invitation, and he said, "Sandie, you come up and you be ready." I said, okay. So I stood right over here, kind of in William's corner, as he proceeded to talk about the crucifixion and the sacrifice that Jesus made for you and for me that day on Calvary. And as he talked about it, he talked about details that day that I really had never thought about in all of my years of sitting through church. He talked about how that the cross was laying on the ground that day, and how Jesus had to physically crawl to get on that cross. We know he went willingly and knowingly to the cross. And then he went on to talk about how he hung on the cross that day. He had everyone in the room bow their heads and close their eyes. And he said, as Jesus was hanging on that cross that day, he said, "I love you, Gerald." And then he said, "I love you," and he said your name. And that pierced my heart like a sword. And I thought, wow, never thought about it like that. I've heard the song for years that says, when he was on the cross, I was on his mind. But I never really stopped and got literal with it to think, as he was hanging there, he was thinking about me. Because in my selfish desire, Scripture tells us to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, and with all your soul. For this is the first and the greatest commandment. And I can stand before you today and say that I do love you. But I can also stand before you today and say there's no way that I would send my son to die for you. I don't have it in me. My son is adopted, and it took me a long time to get to that part in my life, through a lot of struggles and a lot of heartache. And he means a lot to me. He didn't grow in my tummy, but I guarantee you, you come to me and say he's not mine, and you better get ready to scrap, because we're going after it. Okay? But I can stand before you and say, I'm not going to let him give his life for you. As Gerald went on that day to talk about the cross and coming forward and just bearing your soul and laying your sin and your shame and your burdens down at the foot of the cross, he talked about how you had to lay it under the blood. Again, something I'd never really thought about in that perspective. He said, if you lay it on top of the blood, you can take it back. And we're all so guilty of that. We give it to God, and we give him about 80% so that we can take that other 20 and keep worrying about it and trying to fix it and figure it out over here. He said, you got to put it under the blood, because when you put it under the blood of Christ covers it. It changes it. It washes it clean, and it erases it like it never happened. Forgiveness, grace, and mercy. That's what it's about. In Isaiah 43:1, it says, "Fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name, and you are mine." He knew just how the day would end, he went to pray in the garden. He cried out loud, thy will be done. For God the Father, Jesus the Son, under the blood, that's where I'll lay pieces of my soul, my sin, my shame. He paid it all for me that day, hanging on the cross. He called my name. They drove 3 nails in his feet and hands, a crown of thorns pierced his head. Father, forgive them, he prayed out loud, for it is finished, it's over now. Under the blood, that's where I lay pieces of my soul, my sin, my shame. He paid it all for me that day, hanging on the cross. He called my name. He lay 3 days in that old tomb. The world, they thought that he was through. An angel sat on a stone rolled away, saying he is risen. He lives today. Under the blood, that's where I lay pieces of my soul, my sin, my shame. He paid it all for me that day, hanging on the cross. He called my name. He paid it all for me that day, hanging on the cross.